Hey y'all, welcome back to P Square Sips&Convo with Pamela Guillory Lee.
And Paulette Afro Angel Abinamo.
And today we're here with a local Houston blogger, Trice Clark, and we're going to let her introduce herself.
So what's up, y'all? My name is Trice Clark, and as Pam said, I am a blogger right here in Houston, Texas. Just a little bit about me. I kind of dabble in a little entrepreneurship, and I'm a mom and a wife, and I'm just all things Trice. So that's who I am.
All right. And the name of the blog?
Put Your Dukes Up.
Put Your Dukes Up.
Put Your Dukes
All right. So what was the inspiration behind Put Your Dukes Up?
You know, it's crazy because, like, when I think of the inspiration behind Put Your Dukes Up, before Put Your Dukes Up even became a thing, it was, I just knew I wanted to do something. So the inspiration behind just wanting to do something that would empower women and girls, it was really me. Like, okay. I felt like I was my own inspiration, like the younger version of me was the inspiration behind wanting to do something that would, you know, show strength and show courage. So
I like to play on words with it. Put your Dukes Up. So that's your first name on there, Dukes. Yay.
Yes, Paulette.
Oh, look. She didn't really want to put her real name out there, and I just did. Everybody know I got a big mouth, so I just spilled the tea. So why is it important for you to tell your story in your blog? Like, what's the whole purpose behind it?
So, really, Put Your Dukes Up, it like you said, it tells a story. It tells a story about more so when I was younger, leading up to like being a teenager, being a young adult. I wasn't standing up for myself. I wasn't speaking up for myself. I had experienced some traumatic situations in my childhood, and you know, I don't know if you watch Insecure or are you a friend of Issa.
Oh, yeah.
But I read one of Issa Rae's books, and it kind of talked about like creating a name that really identifies and connects with who you are. And Put Your Dukes came to mind. I mean, I had a different name, and I wasn't really feeling it. But Put Your Dukes came to mind because my name is Duke Trice, like you mentioned, and it just kind of had that play on words, but it also stood for what I wanted to like put out there in the world, in the universe, about, you know, fight for yourself, you know, stand up for yourself. Yeah. Don't be afraid to, you know, say what's on your mind, or don't be afraid to represent yourself well. You know, just don't let anybody, you know, punk you or, you know, or make you feel bad for any reason. You have to be your own champion and champion for yourself.
So I read you had posted when you first came out with your blog, you had posted a Facebook post, and you said that after you started your blog, you felt free. Can you elaborate on the freedom that you felt? Like, how was that freeing and uplifting to you?
Okay. So I like to compare my experience starting the blog and being free. I like to compare it to the show Hoarders. Because in Hoarders, you know, those people are like bombarded with trash, and they just can't seem to move on. Right, nasty. They can't seem to move on with their life because they just have so much filth on the inside. And it's not always like filth as in, you know, negative things, but it could also just be trash of like traumatic experiences or things that you're holding on to, baggage and stuff. And like going through the whole process of, you know, bringing forth the blog, the freedom came when I started to share, like starting to get all of that trash and all of that burden and just traumatic experiences out on the open. I just like literally felt like a whole lot of weight lifted off of me. That I was able to present things that are going on the inside, and people are like, Trice, like, for real? Yeah. Like, the responses have been, they've been encouraging. Okay, that's good. But it's definitely been like, we just didn't expect that. We just never knew that you went through that. So, but it just literally made me feel like at that point I can conquer the world. I've been holding on to those secrets and those things about me for so long. Now I feel free and feel like I have the permission. I can do anything now, you know?
You know, I find it interesting that as Black people, you know, we're taught do not put your business out on the street. I know I was taught that. Right. You don't put your trauma and things of that nature out on the street. So have you had any like negative backlash at all in regards to telling your story?
No negative backlash, but in the back of my mind, what I always remembered was that whole what happens in the house, what happens in this house stays in the house. Yeah. And then that's where that whole like example of Hoarders came to mind because you know it's more than just a physical dwelling. It's our body. Like this is our house as well. And if I'm not releasing, you know, if you want me to cover up your trash and I have to hold on to it, it's damaging my heart. It's damaging my mind. I can't move forward. I can't progress in life. But never direct negative. Everything honestly has been really supportive.
Okay.
With people just saying, you know, can't believe that happened to you. But kudos to you for just, you know, being open about it.
Yeah. Cool. So that's great that, you know, you have a lot of positive people behind you, or a lot of, you know, positivity behind you telling your story, because again, there's so many bloggers that look like us that are coming out with their story, and now I think we're in a new generation where it's good to release those things instead of keeping things in the closet. You know, again, in our culture as Black people, it's like you keep stuff in the house, you don't say anything, but then how do you move on? And then you have those generational curses go down from, which we'll talk about that towards the end, of course, but that's really encouraging to hear that you're, you know, that you're ready to release, you know, what was going on with you. Yeah. So how did you, like, were you nervous, like, when you first put it out?
I was nervous. And to be honest with you, if my husband was really more concerned of my mental health, like putting that out there. He was really concerned about my mental health. And, you know, it's crazy because we talk about what we don't do as Black people. We don't go to therapy either. And so that was one of his biggest things. He was like, Trice, if you're going to do it, before you like publish it, can you please go and make sure that you're built for this? Make sure that you have the strength and the ability to take it on, because when you do it, you know, it's out there. It's out there. And, you know, the responses are going to be helpful to people, and you don't know what position you're going to be put in where you're going to have to go and tell your story again and again. Like, are you really ready?
Yes, and then, like, have to relive that
relive it over and
over. That was good, though. That was insightful for him to tell you to, you know, go seek therapy before you put this out, because you will have to relive that over and over and over. You don't know how that's going to affect you as well.
Absolutely. Because, you know, he has to live, you know, he has to live with me. And he is the person who deals with me when I have low moments, when, you know, when I'm sad or when I've been triggered somehow, some way. You know, he has to be the person to comfort me. So he wants to make sure that I'm good, that I can do this.
Yeah, that makes sense. So blogging, is a form of journaling. So, So how important is it, or like what's the benefits of journaling?
So journaling actually started for me as a kid, and I journaled because I really couldn't tell anybody what was going on, like what I was experiencing. So I was writing it in my little notebook, you know, those little kind with the little key. The key didn't even work.
The diary,
the diary with the locket.
Yes.
So I started writing in that, but I mean, as I've gotten older, journaling, the whole being able to write your thoughts down, there's no judgment. You know, you can write whatever you want to write. You can say whatever you want to say on your notebook. It's not going to talk back to you.
Right.
It's not going to say, you should never did that. Or it's not going to, maybe it should give you some insightful advice. But you're able to just be free, open, write it down, and then go back and look at it and see how much you've grown from whatever that situation is. So I do have an addiction to journals. Like I have a ton of journals, but they all serve different purposes. You know, I have a journal for, you know, scriptures, or I have a journal for my, you know, financial goals, or whatever the case is. I just have a different journal for a different purpose. But yeah, journaling is healing to me.
Yes, it is.
Well, let me ask you your opinion on this. So I feel like Facebook is the new journal for a lot of people.
Right.
I know I tend to do that, baby. I put myself out and then I have to delete later. I just have to vent. I'll be like, this person made me mad. I don't mention no names, but that person knows.
They know who
you're talking to. They know what I'm talking about. So what advice would you give about people oversharing? Because, okay, I feel like what you're doing is actually productive.
Right.
Not to say that you can't be open on Facebook, but how would you encourage that person, like, hey, you know, you're journaling a lot. Your business out there. Right. Because I've been told that somebody was like, Paulette,
you're journaling
you need
a lot.
to do a blog or journal, because this paragraphs and wow. You know, and then people see you in public, they're like, y'all right, friend? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I saw your Facebook, and the whole world don't see it. The strangers come up to you that they think they know you because you're friends on Facebook. Y'all right? I'm like, oh, yeah, I should have. could have had a following, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So what advice would you say about that?
So what's the median
right.
of putting too much out there,
Right.
or, you know, like.
Right. I mean, I think, honestly, and I said this to somebody the other day, I think sometimes people confuse their audience. Like, if you know that you have a audience that know you for your commentary around sports, and you talk about sports all the time, and then all of a sudden you go on a tangent and you start talking about things that's not really in your niche, because niche is the word.
Yeah,
so
there
you go.
If you start talking about things that's out of your area and your range, you might have a tendency of losing those people who like to follow you for the sports.
Right.
You know, like you, for example, everybody know you do hair and stuff, but
when
everybody
I talk
else,
about politics, I don't get no likes. Y'all don't be loving me on Facebook, bro.
So
I'm talking about some like political stuff. Y'all be like, When I post hair, woo, likes all over the place.
Right, but you know what? The likes are telling you where your lane is. That's also telling you where your audience appreciate you the most, and where they could benefit from you, and where you actually have, not saying that you don't have knowledge about politics, but you can draw so many people about other things where your likes and your comments are being driven from.
I ain't want to talk about politics, and I want y'all to love me for it. Period. No, I'm playing. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
You got to kind of find, like, where,
Right.
especially if you're trying to draw a certain audience, and then find a creative way so maybe you can incorporate that,
Right.
but still stay in what you're known for.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I'll
But
just talk about
I
it
think
all.
if you're writing paragraphs, then you need to go ahead and get you a website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need to start a blog.
Yeah.
Right. Like, Trump should have started the blog a long time ago. all that writing and stuff that you was doing, Mr. Former President. I ain't gonna read it, but maybe you might want to start a blog. You know, that's some advice that we can give you, sir. Anyway.
What words of encouragement would you give to the next generation? You have a daughter, so I'm sure that you're an expert in giving advice to a younger crowd. So what advice would you give?
I mean, it depends on who you're asking. So my daughter is 21, and one of the things that I have learned and I actually appreciate is I respect her as a person, and so therefore she respects me as a person. You know, I don't take it lightly that she allows me to be in her personal space as an adult. So I don't take those things for granted. But what I would, share with the next generation is that be mindful of your boundaries, like set boundaries, be assertive. Not necessarily so aggressive, but be assertive with your boundaries. Stand up for what it is that you need to do to protect your peace. I would also tell the next generation that I think started to kind of be a big thing now that wasn't so big when I was younger. Self-love and self-care. Like those things weren't like really, really like taught to us, and
we talked about that on a different podcast. Like, it was just like you didn't even know what self-love or self-care, not self-love but self-care was.
Right.
Like it wasn't even anything that we saw growing. We just saw people working and retiring, and that was it. There was no in between of let me do this and let's go to the spa and let me get some mental clarity or whatever, and so we just didn't see it.
So my biggest advice: set boundaries. Like really, really fall in love with yourself. If you fall in love with yourself, then you'll have that courage that you need to be able to say no when you want to say no, or you'll just have you just have a whole lot more about yourself that you can appreciate, even if somebody else don't even appreciate it. So that's like the biggest advice that I would give to the younger generation and to our generation and older. I would say it's not too late to fall in love with yourself and to set boundaries. Sometimes we get so caught up in pleasing other people that we forget that we need to please ourselves first. And so it goes both ways. To the young and to the old.
Okay. Well, okay, so not to give the whole gist of your blogging to get too detailed, but okay, so now you're joining about, I'm hearing that you've had some past trauma. We're not going to expound on that because I definitely want your followers to, wait for that opportunity to go on the blog to, read it. But what steps did it take for you to be like, you know what? Let me go ahead and put this out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what was it? I'm sure you didn't just wake up and was like, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and blog about it. Like, what was your journey to where, okay, I can go ahead and start journaling about this now?
Right.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to. I've always known that I wanted to write a book. So I wanted to write a book, but I think the content of the book that I was initially thinking about writing was more like out of anger. I wanted to write it out of like, I'm mad because you did this to me or they did this to me, and this is how I turned out. And I thought about it. Wait a minute, Trice. You turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
You turned out pretty good. There's not a lot of people who still have their right mind after experiencing some of the stuff that I've dealt with. So then I just kind of flipped it a little bit because I still want to write the book, but I also want to just kind of gain some followers, kind of gain, a little audience, some people that would love to follow me to see me go through the whole process of writing the book. So, and so after going through that period of just like being angry, then it went to we were faced with the pandemic, and that's when things like really went south for me. Because anybody that knows me knows that I'm always doing something, going somewhere, moving around, making something. And pandemic caused me to be quiet, and I couldn't move, I couldn't go anywhere, and it actually put me in to a very dark, deep depression because there was, I couldn't make any movements. People is what always have like driven me or given me excitement, being able to help people. And that's where the problem was. I've always been helping people, but I was never helping and serving myself.
Right.
And so, COVID really brought things into perspective for me, and that's when the blog was actually birthed during the pandemic.
So, because it sounds like a lot of things birthed from that time, especially during the pandemic, because you are forced to sit down with yourself because you really can't go out and help people because there's COVID out there.
Right.
So you're sitting there with your thoughts in your head and like, okay, I need to really get this out. So it looks like that's what kind of pushed you to...
Yeah, it pushed me, gave me a lot of time to think, a lot of time to write, like a lot of self-reflection, and that's when I started the therapy. And so the therapy actually, it actually helped me remember certain things that I didn't remember. It helped me understand certain characteristics about myself that I didn't even know, that I had. But, the therapy along with COVID, just kind of slowing me down. Honestly, if COVID or the pandemic never happened, I don't know if I actually would have had the time to slow down and to actually start it.
Yeah, it definitely forced everybody to slow down.
Right.
And to put into perspective some things that they probably hadn't even thought about or didn't have the time to think about. Right. So, yeah.
We had plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Well, I still worked.
I did too.
Yeah, I kind of snuck around to work.
I'm triggered. Sorry. What'd you say?
I kind of snuck around to work and I wasn't supposed to. Stay boy, don't shut me down.
Right. No.
The governor didn't know. I'm trying to stay home.
Right.
I said, now,
your governor was pardoning people. So,
yeah.
Nope. So.
But if it was Waukesha, baby, she would have been locked up.
Yes.
We're not going to talk about the I'm talking about political.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. See that?
Stay in your niche.
There you go. This has been really helpful. Put up your dukes. It's already helping me.
Yes, see? Yes. Good. Now, was during the pandemic, was that the first time you ever went to counseling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was the very first time that I ever went to counseling, and we did a process that I had never heard of before, but it's called EMDR. And it was kind of like a hypnosis type style of therapy. And it allowed me to remember things that were like hidden in a certain part of the brain that I literally had completely forgotten about. Wow. And it answered questions. I had a lot of why questions, and it answered those why questions because I was able to like see them being played like in my vision of why these things happen or what caused it or how did it even start. I couldn't even remember that. But after that therapy session, a series of sessions, we were able to like really pull that in. That was a very crazy experience.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Do you still do therapy today?
Not as much as I used to. I don't do the therapy as much as I used to, only because of the time. I think COVID allowed a lot of us to be able to do virtual stuff. So all of my therapy sessions were virtual. But now that like the world is kind of going back into its normal groove, just finding the time to actually do it, it's been hard. But I mean, I definitely recommend therapy to any and everybody. I mean, it's crazy because somebody asked me the other day, like, where do you get this confidence from? And I was like, Jesus in therapy. I mean, those are only two things I can really say that helped me kind of like find myself, you know? So,
do you talk about a lot of your faith in the blog as well?
I don't really talk about my faith as much. You know, I think that most people, if you know me, then you know that I'm a very, very spiritual person. I love, you know who I love. I love God. I'm a praise and worship leader in my church. So that's what I stand up for, and that's what I believe. But I don't I'm not overly spiritual in my faith. I do reference that, you know, or I may suggest that a person pray or meditate, whatever their ground is. Right. But I'm gonna pray.
Right. Like Paulette and I, Trice grew up Pentecostal. So she understands. Yes. She understands the assignment. Amen.
Right. But you know, that brings up another question though. Let's talk about it. So you're putting out this blog, it's great, it's really helping people. But okay, just like Pam said, the way we were raised, again, don't tell your problems to the world, tell Jesus. And I feel like when it comes to like
go to the rock.
Right. I feel like the way we were brought up spiritually was, I'm not saying that it didn't help or it can't help. I believe that I'm not going to talk to, I ain't going to have no service, but I know he can take it away. Yes, Lord. But I think that, like you said, therapy also conjoined with your faith does help. But the way we were raised, it's like, oh no, you don't go to therapy because Jesus can just take it away and that's it. So, but you say you haven't had any negative backlash as far as you putting out your blog, but what advice would you give out to people who think that way?
Yeah, so in you know, our church background is very extensive. However, you know, I think things have like really changed, like in church, in the physical church. Things have changed. I think there's a lot of things that people had to just kind of come to grips with. That yes, we need Jesus, we need God, but also we need those other additional resources. And you can look at it from this perspective as well. You know, God gave us doctors for our health and our physical being, but then you have therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists who are there to help with our mental being. You know, and one of the things I have to say that like the members that go to my church, they've been very, very supportive. Very supportive, because not only is my blog a way to reach out to people who may have certain experiences that I have, but I mean, it's also a ministry. And just because I don't necessarily just talk about God or I don't really talk about reference scriptures or anything in my blog, it still ministers to people. And sometimes you have to change your approach on how you reach people. You can reach people in other ways and still let your light shine, and they'll be drawn to you in other ways, and then you'll have that opportunity to minister to them in whatever way or fashion that they may need. You know, so I try to tailor my blog to be a little bit more universal. I do realize everybody have different religious preferences. I just want to be able to connect and help people grow as a person. But yeah, I'm still gonna call on Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
You sound like the announcer at church. Amen. Thank you for the testimony, Sister Trice. Amen, congregation. You can please lift your pocketbooks. We're going to take off.
Yes. Oh, and I know I'm cutting protocol, but before we go, we have to harmonize something. I love to harmonize, so we have to harmonize something.
Girl.
No, I can't sing.
Oh, okay.
She ain't got to do this,
but in our podcast, I love to harmonize something. So before we go, I want to harmonize something. She didn't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So anyway,
oh my God.
Where do you see Put Your Dukes Up in the next 5 years? Because we've discussed some of the events and opportunities you want to display. So tell me a little bit about that.
So in the next 5 years, I want to see Put Your Dukes Up like grow like tremendously. I really want to transition it to a nonprofit organization. I want to be able to help young adults, young girls, single moms, like moms who are aspiring, not even just moms, just women in general who are trying to go back to school and just, learn or take their learning to another level. But I want to provide scholarships. I just want to be able to make sure that people understand that you don't have to be where you are, but being anything more than what you are now, you're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah.
So, like, my mantra is anything that's worth having is worth fighting for. So, if education is worth having, love, your peace of mind, your health, your healing, whatever it is, if it's worth fighting for, I want to be able to demonstrate that through workshops and, just mentorship programs with young women, young girls. And so...
All right, guys. So we're going to wrap up this wonderful podcast that we have with Trice today. And guess what, y'all? Not only is she a blogger, but she also is a business owner. And, Peace, Sips, and Convos, we support Black-owned businesses, especially by women. So go ahead and introduce your business with us.
All right. So if you go to my website, which is actually putyourdukes.com, I have a tab on there where you can shop some of the merchandise that I have. Currently, I have coasters that I make. These coasters are made out of resin, but the biggest thing about these coasters, they're truly made out of love. I know people say that all the time. Now, my stuff is made out of love, but it's really made out of love. But this is how I occupy my mind and keep myself sane. I stay busy by making things, and I make things that speak to me. Maybe the colors speak to me for a particular reason, and so these beautiful coasters I will be gifting to my friends, Miss Pam and Miss Paulette, today. But you can definitely check out merchandise that I have. I also make custom tumblers, which is a really big deal and everything.
And
people
I still need to order one from you because yours do not. When you wash them, they stay together.
Right.
Nothing peels off.
You want something that's gonna stay together.
Yes, it won't peel off or anything.
Right.
So
yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, but keep going. I'm sorry.
But some of the coasters that I'm making, you can see them on my website. I do put positive affirmations or just words to encourage you, inhale, exhale, or you got this. Just things just to remind you that you can. You can conquer and do whatever you put your mind to. And sometimes when you're drinking your drink, you want it to rest upon something as a reminder. I got this. I can do this.
You're pretty.
Well, thank you.
I can drink and conquer the world. Okay, well, so we can find you at putyourdukesup.com.
You can find me on putyourdukesup.com. You can also find me on Instagram at putyourdukesupblog. And I just started kind of dabbling in YouTube a little bit, so you can find me there, Put Your Dukes Up. So everything is 100% Put Your Dukes Up. It's worth fighting for.
At the end of down below. Subscribe and then look up our friend's information so you can check out her website and her blog. Please support.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Trice, thank you so much for visiting us on P Squared Sips and Convo.
Thank y'all for having me. This was fun.
It was fun, and it was lovely to have you.
Yes.
And we always end with a cheer. So, clink, 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 clink.
Thank God we didn't have to sing.
Oh, yes.
You brought it up.
Yes, okay. So we're going to pause right quick and get it together, and we'll come back with a little treat.